the licensing subcommittee. The first item on the agenda is the appointment of chair. Could I please ask councillors for nominations for chair?
I nominate Councillor Una Moulton to be the chair. That's all right.
Thank you, councillor. Could I also take an item for seconder?
That I will second that.
Thank you very much. And is that agreed?
I accept the nomination.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Chair.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining in and welcome to everyone attending this meeting. I'm Councillor Una Moulton and I'm chairing this meeting of the subcommittee of the licensing council meeting. I need to explain to you that your microphones will be all operated for you and that you will be muted when you're not speaking. That's with the exception of the councillors that are present, which are Councillor Pauline Cowper and Councillor Draper, including myself. This meeting and hearing is being live streamed on the council's YouTube channel. Please be aware that as this meeting is being held virtually, there can be a slight delay. And for the benefit of those watching, the subcommittee will be on screen at all times, and officers and other parties present will be on the screen to make their contributions at the appropriate times during this hearing. I should also advise you that if at any time anyone experiences technical difficulties, they should let the clerk know. In the event that any party to the hearing loses connection and then is no longer present in the meeting, we will have to adjourn the meeting immediately for a few minutes whilst we resolve that issue. In the event that issues can't be resolved, the meeting will have to be rescheduled for another date as soon as is practicable. I'd now like to check who's present, and Amy will be doing that.
Thank you, councillor. So we're just going to confirm you can see on your screen that the subcommittee of councillors Moulton, Draper and Cowper are all present. Could I also confirm that the following are present? I'm looking for, first of all, could I confirm that the licensing officer is present?
Yeah, I can confirm that I'm present. My name is Elizabeth MacDonald.
Thank you. Could I also then confirm that the legal officer is present?
Yes, Guy Bishop.
Thank you very much. We also have on attending, we also have the Metropolitan Police, if they could confirm that they are present.
Good afternoon, Russ Stevens, Police Licensing Officer.
Thank you very much, PC Stevens. And we also have the applicant and his agent, if you could confirm.
Yes, Chairman, I'm present, Mr. Panchal here, and the applicant is also present with me, Mr. Sujit Ram Chopra.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much for those introductions. Do we have any declarations of interest?
No.
No.
Okay, wonderful. So I shall now inform all parties that the subcommittee will be following the hearing procedures, a copy of which was included in the notice packs that has been sent out to all parties. If anyone hasn't received those papers, please do speak now. Okay, can I now ask the legal officer and advisor to inform those present that the subcommittee had a briefing paper and to confirm procedures for clarification on any aspect of this application.
Yes, I confirm that the committee had a pre-meet to read the papers and for me to explain the process involved as a reminder of the process that obviously they've been trained in and know about and have dealt with on various different hearings in the past.
Thank you. Can I ask the licensing officer, are there any technical issues that they feel should be brought to this panel's attention?
I don't think there's anything that isn't already within the reports pack. and we're not aware of any consultation that's gone on between anybody else. So it is what is in the reports pack.
Thank you. So as I explained at the beginning of this hearing, the order of the speakers will be following the procedures included in the agenda pack. And we're going to start with the presentation by the applicant. Could I ask for that presentation to be put by the applicant, please?
Sorry, Chairman, do you want, sorry. Sorry, Chairman, could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So should I start with my presentation?
Please do, yes. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, I can see all of you, so I do apologize. I don't know why I'm not being seen, but that's fine. Chairman, this is an application we have put on behalf of our client Surjit Ram Singh. I'm going to give you an experience of Surjit. Surjit's been in the service industry in pizzas and owned a Chinese takeaway, pizza delivery for 5 years, and owned a Chinese takeaway for 3 years. So he has a vast experience in retail trade industry. He's 34 years old. He's got his personal license now, and we have put the application in. Chairman, we do understand the concerns of the police at the moment on this application regarding place being in the cumulative impact zone. We are sufficiently provided all the conditions in our application regarding the CIZ zone to counter the CIZ zone impact on the premises. There are other 2 premises on nearby which are operative for up to about 10 o'clock in the evening. We are happy to reduce our hours to about 8 o'clock in the evening, which will then will have an impact on the cumulative impact zone from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Chairman, we are also proposing that we will accept that we will not sell more than 4 cans of beer. We will not go above 6% ABV, and there will be no alcohol 10 cl or 5 cl miniatures sold at the premises. So, Chairman, we are happy to take any questions regarding this application, and we feel that the application be granted. We will also be making sure at the premises there will be a staff training manual, which will be recording all the training of the staff. We will also be having a refusal book. We'll also be having an incident book. We'll have all the posters, and the premises will undergo a Challenge 25 policy to run the premises. So, Chairman, we feel there will be all posters also put up at the premises that there's a CCTV. There will be a CCTV also at the premises. Please leave quietly posters will be put up. There will be an operating schedule, the refusal books, and the training manual. So all the staffs will be fully trained at the premises. So, Chairman, we feel if there are any questions, I'm happy to take over. And my client is also here if there is anything that you need to ask the client regarding this premises. And I'm happy to take any questions, but we feel that his license be granted. We have been in touch with the responsible authorities during our application, as he has mentioned in his letter also. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I ask the Metropolitan Police to put their questions, can I just check? You're stating a change of hours. Is that correct? You're proposing 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
That's
so
right. We're proposing 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
And there are, if you look at the police's application, there are 2 premises around the area.
Yeah.
Morrison's, and operate late 10 o'clock in the evening.
Mm-hmm. And then what were the other one was 4 cans. You're restricting people to 4 cans of beer. Is that right?
That's right. That's correct, Chairman.
And that the beer that you're selling will be a restricted alcohol.
Yeah, it will be 6%. There will be no beers and ciders above 6% ABV sold at the premises.
Right. Okay.
Again, we are also putting a more stringent condition to say there will be no 10 CL and 5 CL miniatures sold. So again, we are blocking the street. We are becoming more stringent and more robust compared to Morrison's and that around the corner.
Okay. I would now like to turn to the questions from the Metropolitan Police.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interject, Chair. I do have obviously legal advice to give you at this stage, which I think is rather important. It's really to assist Mr. Panchal, but also for him to address. Mr. Panchal, the premises is located within the Mitcham cumulative impact zone.
Yeah.
And as you know, the upshot from that is that it's covered by the policy in terms of cumulative impact, and you'll be aware, I assume, of paragraph 7.8, which is the policy part that's rather important. To assist you, I'll read the section that obviously you'll need to address. The relevant bit is the effect of the cumulative impact policy is to create a rebuttable presumption that applications for new premises licenses that are likely to add to the existing cumulative impact will normally be refused following relevant representations unless the applicant can demonstrate that there will be no negative cumulative impact on one or more of the licensing objectives. The process allows applicants to rebut the presumption of refusal in their applications and to make the case before a licensing subcommittee why their application should be granted as an exception to the cumulative impact policy. Where an application engages a special policy, the burden of proof lies on the applicant to rebut the presumption. So as you can see, you'll need to address that with the committee now, just so that they understand how you think your client's premises should be given a license in those circumstances, because the normal process is it will be refused. I'll leave you to answer that.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. We are. I'm doing the positive measures. I'm looking at the guidance 14.47, whereby we are trying to say how positively we will be rebuttally we will be running the premises, and we're saying that we will not be selling anything less than 4 cans of beers and lagers, which will avoid the street drinkers and that to buy alcohol in single cans. We're also avoiding anything above strong beers like 6.6% and above. We will not be stocking any beers or lagers which is 6.6% and above. We will also be selling no miniatures 10 CL and 5 CL. We will also be reducing the hours, so there will be other premises in the area open beyond the hours that we're going to be opening. So we will be opening from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we are robustly, we are making positive measures to create a safe and clean town center environment under the section 1447. There will be CCTV, as we have mentioned, in our premises, and we put down all the conditions in our application for the committee to have a look. If I would, Jimmy, look into our bundle and page 19 will give you the CCTV and the Challenge 25 policy, which we are looking to promote at the premises. We've also said that all staff will be fully trained at the premises, and all training records will be put up for the licensing officers or the police to check. We will also be working closely with the responsible authorities and making sure all the alcohol and everything is correctly sold. We did email to the responsible authority on the 13th March what conditions that would comply with at the premises. I hope you got those on the bundle that we sent to the police. So, Chairman, that's what we robustly or would like to promote the 4 licensing objectives in this case.
Okay, thank you. Can I now ask for the questions from the Metropolitan Police? That's Russ Stevens to the applicant.
Thank you, Chair. Russ Stevens, Police Licensing Officer. Just one question at this stage. You mentioned that at the start of your speech just then that you're aware of the cumulative impact policy and that the details that you put in the application address the cumulative impact policy. Point D, sort of the prevention of public nuisance, point number 2, you've mentioned strict policy in place to tell all staff not to serve alcohol to drunks at all. I understand what you're getting at, and from this sheet of paper, that appears to be the only section that does actually attempt to address the cumulative impact policy. But can you explain what you mean by not serving alcohol to drunks at all? Can you elaborate on that strict policy, please?
Yeah, serving alcohol to a drunk is illegal anyway. So it's part and parcel of the training that is going to be carried out, and it is a part of the law that says that you cannot serve alcohol to drunks. So that will be one of the policies in place for all the staff working there and the DPS.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, you're absolutely right. It is illegal to sell alcohol to someone who's drunk.
It's illegal to sell alcohol to drunks anyway. So it's
So you're stating on the application. Yes. So you're stating on the application that you will comply with the law in that respect. Okay. Thank you. No more questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Russ. Are there questions from either of the councillors to the applicant as well? Councillor Draper.
Yeah, I have one question. Thanks, Chair. I'm going to ask a question that relates specifically to the cumulative impact zone, because as the police have told us, there are already 10 shops selling alcohol within 300 metres of Mitcham News. What advantages to Mitcham are there in increasing the number to 11? In other words, creating more cumulative impact. What are you bringing over and above what is already in place?
The shop, I just want to take one instruction from my client before I answer this. If you just hold on a minute, if you can. How long has the shop been there working? It's 34 years. The shop is already there for the last 34 years. So it is not a shop that has been just a new shop. So the shop has been there for the last 34 years. It used to be a WHS Smith shop for 5 years. And then my client has bought the shop for a year now. So it is not a new shop that is coming up. So under section 10.15, it is that is what we are looking at. The other thing that we are looking at when you're saying there are 10 shops, and I agree that there are 10 shops, but section 14.19 would say there can be confusion about the difference between the need for the premises and the cumulative impact of premises on the licensing objectives, for example, on crime and disorder. Need concerns the commercial demand for another pub or restaurant or hotel in the Metropolitan Authority and for the market. This is not a matter for the licensing authority to discuss or discharge its licensing functions on its settlement of the licensing.
I don't think that this is a debate about need. It's about whether it's going to cause cumulative impact. I think that's the question.
Yeah, I understand that, but what I'm trying to explain also, that this isn't a shop, it is a new shop created already. This is a shop that is already existing for the last 34 years. And it is adding.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that the shop exists, but it's existed without alcohol for 34 years. How is alcohol sales going to going to change things? How is it increasing the zone, increasing the impact of the zone, going to change anything for anybody?
Well, the norm these days is presently that there is a Morrison's opposite, and people would go and buy alcohol there. But while this shop is also doing newspapers and that, and people consider themselves to have something extra there. So alcohol is a subsidy of what they are doing at the moment. So whatever they're selling at the moment for 34 years, and to let the shop survive. There must be, means alcohol could, if people pick up a bottle of wine while they are picking up their sales or newspaper or anything. So we feel under 10.15 shops, stores and supermarkets should normally be free to provide sales of alcohol for consumption of the premises at any time when the retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there are good reasons based on the licensing objectives. We've just explained how robustly the licensing objectives are going to be promoted at this shop. So that's what our view would be, that it would give an extra business to the premises, and it would make the footfall increase with the people buying newspapers and that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Pauline, Councillor Cowper, do you have any question?
It kind of follows on from what Councillor Draper has been saying, and the legal advisor, and that is, it's common sense that you shouldn't sell alcohol to drunks. But the thing is, it's more likely that people who aren't drunk will come in and buy alcohol and then go outside, or worse, to home in these times and get drunk. So I don't really see that is more than common sense, that you don't sell alcohol to drunks. But you don't know whether they will get drunk having bought the alcohol and gone out of the shop.
Thank you.
Is there a question to us, Chairman, or is it?
I think it is a question as to what you think you can do in helping to stop the drunkenness. So.
Well, ma'am, we've already said in our, as the police have just showed you, that one of the conditions on page 19 for prevention of public nuisance, that there will be a strict policy to make sure no alcohol is sold to drunk, and it is illegal anyway to sell alcohol to drunk. It would be a breach of condition or breach of law. Somebody could be prosecuted for it, and I don't think my client would like to be prosecuted for selling alcohol to drunk. So I don't think my client will ever sell alcohol to drunk. The other question is that if people buy it and go home and get drunk, that is not controllable by anybody in this day and age.
No, but the cumulative impact zone is one that does take into account that. So I suppose it's how you're addressing some of that around the.
Yeah, ma'am. The other thing is we train our client, and our client is trained to make sure that that people who are problematic or something would be banned from. He will be joining the retail outlet scheme, whereby he will be making sure that people who are banned from selling, or people who are problematic should not be sold out, which will be a norm for all the agents, all the retailers around the area joining in. And we'll be working along with the responsible authorities, which is going to be very important for my client, since it's being on a cumulative impact zone, to make sure that matters are taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you. I think we should now have the presentation, sorry, from the Metropolitan Police, from Ross Stephen, please. Ross, are you there?
Thank you. Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Okay, so this application relates to number 256 London Road, Mitcham, which is in the very centre of Mitcham Town Centre. It is close to a public green, to the clock tower, to a pedestrianised area that contains a street market, and as we've already discussed, is within the Mitcham Cumulative Impact Zone. Also to mention that this policy specifically relates to the retail of alcohol for consumption off the premises. So it does not relate to pubs and restaurants, but relates to basically off-licence shops. And it is in place to deal with a very well documented and ongoing serious issue of crime and antisocial behaviour connected to, well, mostly to street drinkers, people that are buying alcohol in shops and consuming it in Mitcham Town Centre. So approximately 50 metres from the applicant's premises, you have the Mitcham Clock Tower. This is pedestrianised. There are benches all around the clock tower, bushes all around the benches, and this area, unfortunately, has been adopted by street drinkers who basically sit there, drink alcohol that they've purchased in any one of the 10 shops within 300 metres of where they are, and they get drunk. They may be sober, as you pointed out, Councillor. They may be sober when they purchase the alcohol, but they take it away from the shop. They sit together and socialise and get drunk, and it is the abuse that we are concerned about that the members of the public suffer, including children, as they walk past. They are often verbally abused, and they witness street drinkers urinating in the street. There's a substantial amount of litter caused by these people as they're discarding their rubbish. And despite, as I said in my representations, despite the vast sums of money that has been spent on the regeneration of Mitcham Town Centre, which has actually included the moving of the clock tower as well, and creating a lovely place for people to enjoy Mitcham Town Centre, there is still an overwhelming feeling of poverty and crime, and this comes from the fact that there is a constant presence of drunks in this area. We have the local business premises complaining on a regular basis about petty crime and general everything from low-level antisocial behaviour to the absolute most serious offences, criminal offences have been committed in Mitcham Town Centre, and there has almost always been a direct link to alcohol and retail of alcohol in Mitcham Town Centre as a result of connected to these crimes. Now, I said that I personally believe that Mitcham Town Centre does not need and cannot cope with another off licence. We have 10 shops. That number is slowly reducing. I think a few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, we were up to about 13 shops within 300 metres. That number is now reduced to 10 shops, but it was still too many. And they all cumulatively contribute to this alcohol-related crime and antisocial behaviour that is all of them together. It doesn't matter how responsible and how experienced one individual operator is, they are still providing more availability, or they're still providing alcohol to that area. and as a cumulative impact, we are having problems. My colleagues, police officers and council wardens are dealing with incidents all the time in Mitcham Town Centre, and they are fighting a losing battle. We're just about keeping on top of it, but we are being greatly assisted by this cumulative impact policy, and without it, we would completely lose this battle. Also, not only have we got 10 shops within 300 metres, we do have another small independent off licence, literally 2 or 3 doors away, at number 250 London Road, competing for that exact same market. I have listed, and I'm just going to run through them very, very quickly, a number of crimes that are relevant to alcohol and to the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises. These are relevant crimes. They were recorded in the immediate vicinity of Mitcham Town Centre and of the applicant's premises. And just going back only 12 months, we have an assault on a female by a drunk male who was sitting outside. Numerous cases of shoplifting of wine, shoplifting of spirits. There's a personal robbery where the victim was drunk out in the street. Victim drinking alone outside was robbed and stabbed. Shoplifting of alcohol. Threatening and abusive behaviour from drunks outside, reported to us as a crime. Alcohol-related affray. Victim assaulted by street drinkers. Shoplifting of alcohol. Abusive and threatening drunk male in a shop. Sadly, a serious sexual assault. An assault where the drunk victim was hit over the head with a bottle and there was a group of drunk suspects. Shoplifting of bottles of wine, shoplifting of bottles of spirits. Drunk male assaulted, shoplifting of bottles of spirits, and a drunk male abusive and threatening and throwing chairs. I'll point out at this stage as well that absolutely the vast majority of those crimes were committed during the day. And the problems that we suffer from antisocial behaviour, the antisocial behaviour and the crime relating to street drinkers and drinking alcohol out in the street in Mitcham Town Centre occurs during the day. Obviously, the 8 a.m. proposed 8 a.m. start that was originally on the application did raise some eyebrows, as I personally think that's too early to be purchasing alcohol. Anyway, and there comes with additional problems with that, but that does not, reducing the start time and moving the start time from 8 to 10 a.m. has no effect on the street drinkers at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon that are getting drunk and are abusing the members of the public and the local businesses. Similarly, bringing the finish time back, so we're not closing at 11. I did make a note. I think you said 8 p.m. What you most, yeah, I think you said 8 p.m. finish. Again, the problems we are having are predominantly in the afternoon, so that would not really have any effect on crime. It certainly would not improve the ability to negate the impact of the selling of alcohol at that time. And I'm going to point out as well, I mean, obviously we're in completely different times at the moment with the coronavirus restrictions in place. Mitcham Town Centre does look quite different from how it did a few months ago, as does everywhere. But crime and antisocial behaviour in Mitcham Town Centre is still fairly steady. We've not just in Mitcham Town Centre, but we have noticed, or I've noticed, a general increase in crime, in shoplifting of alcohol in both supermarkets and in smaller off licences across the whole of Merton. Unfortunately, I've noticed a slight increase in violence connected to the shoplifting and threats of violence connected to that shoplifting, with security guards being assaulted on a number of occasions. We are catching more shoplifters because the larger shops have security guards and they're much stricter about how they let into the premises, and they are monitoring their customers more than they ever did. So we are catching more shoplifters. But we are noticing as well that the smaller shops are suffering because they don't necessarily have the funds to have a full-time SIA-approved security guard on the door and we are noticing that the smaller shops are being hit, probably more than they were before, by potential shoplifters, people who are desperate for goods and alcohol. So it is my belief that any additional shop premises in Metropolitan Town Centre who is selling alcohol will and cannot avoid but to contribute and exacerbate the problems that we are having with crime and antisocial behaviour in that area. And if the applicants, if this licence is granted, then there will be an increase in the quantity and availability of alcohol to be consumed away from that premises, most likely to be consumed, or highly likely to be consumed in the town centre. And there will be a proportionate increase in crime and antisocial behaviour that can't be avoided. This is exactly what the cumulative impact policy was put in place to prevent. And that policy, like I said, does not relate to pubs. Does not relate the pubs that have their staff there that can monitor their customers, can deal with the potential for antisocial behaviour while their customers are in that premises, but similarly with restaurants. But it is the retail of alcohol for consumption off the premises that is causing us problems, and this will exacerbate those problems. You've mentioned multi-packs and that you won't sell single cans. Yeah, it's very convenient for a street drinker, someone just go into a shop, buy one can of beer, go and sit outside and drink it, and then go and get another beer, go and sit outside and drink it. Multi-packs will merely mean that they will go and buy 4 packs of beer and drink them 4 at a time, or it's likely that they will be in a group of more than 4 people. They will just share the beers out. My experience with some premises, or problem premises that we've had in Mitcham before, with street drinking, where they have been particularly irresponsible, the street drinkers have gone in, bought a bottle of wine, acquired or bought some, or been given in one case, plastic cups, and sat outside and handed out the plastic cups to their friends and poured the bottles of wine and spirits into those cups. So, as well intentioned as it is, the multi-packs, in my view, won't have any effect on the impact. So, also to move on, I was disappointed when I received the application, as I am whenever I've received an application for an off-licence in Mitcham Town Centre. But what usually happens, and this happens with large-scale operators and small independents, as one of the responsible authorities, we are usually consulted beforehand. The Licensing Act, the guidelines in Section 182 from the Home Office, encourages early consultation with the police, specifically the police, for an early discussion. I've had no discussion with the applicant or the applicant's agent prior to this application coming in, except for, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I had a phone call from a licensing agent when the premises was known as W.H. Smith's, and they did ask at the time what the lie of the land was with regard to antisocial behaviour and crime in that area, and we had a frank discussion, and there was no application after that. So the application has come in, and the application it makes no attempt to address the cumulative impact policy. It mentions the original application does mention Challenge 25 policy to be in place, which is good, which is lovely. That relates to children. CCTV, which is good. I like to see CCTV as a condition on the licence, but it doesn't address the cumulative impact. It doesn't address the issue of street drinking outside. And we've had a brief discussion during the consultation period, myself and the applicant's agent. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend a site meeting. I was actually I had just over a week or so in bed with I believe was coronavirus, hit at the wrong time. And I was physically unable to get out and actually have this site meeting. We did have some conversation via email, and I can confirm that the applicant did send me a list of proposed conditions that he has actually read out to you during his presentation in relation to 6% ABV cap and the multi-packs and the like. But I don't consider that they will address the cumulative impact, and I still believe that there is going to be, or there would be, a serious issue with alcohol-related crime, disorder, and antisocial behaviour in Mitcham Town Centre. I've not listed, as I would do sometimes, I've not listed any suggested conditions of my own, should the subcommittee be minded to grant, because I don't believe there are any suitable conditions that would negate the impact on the licensing objective. So I would strongly urge the subcommittee to reject this application in its entirety, for no other reason than it doesn't address the cumulative impact. But more importantly, to me, we have too many off licenses in Mitcham Town Centre, and they are causing a problem with the street drinkers who gravitate towards their source of supply, and they are persistent. My colleagues have tried numerous ways of dealing with this issue, including giving tickets out, community protection notices, even arresting for various offences, taking their alcohol off them. But the problem is that they see the police coming and they will hide their alcohol, or if my colleagues confiscate their alcohol from them, they just go a matter of meters to the nearest shop and buy some more. And obviously the competitive nature of the competition from having so many alcohol retailers in such a small area, it drives the prices down as well. So it is easy for people to get their alcohol, and it's a social thing as well. A lot of the people here that are drinking out in the street in Mitcham Town Centre, they either can't afford to be drinking pub prices, can't afford to be drinking in a pub, or it's also it's not appropriate for them to be drinking at home. It's frowned upon for them to be drinking at home, and they find that drinking out in the street with their friends is a social cultural thing. And if we continue to supply the alcohol, then this issue relating to street drinking will continue and will only get worse. So I strongly urge the subcommittee to reject this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Do we have questions from the applicant to Ross Stevens, please?
Sorry, Chair. Yes, you just said in your presentation that Chair, is the question to the police, Russ? Yeah, that you did receive the conditions that we've laid out on the 13th of March 2020, if I'm not mistaken, which you mentioned that yes, we did. We did communicate with you when we put the application in and we discussed. Do you think that when we've increased them today from two cans to 4 cans of bottles, lager and ciders, do you think that will avoid the street drinkers to come up? Because the street drinkers normally buy single cans. Will that not stop the street drinker? Then would that not policy be put down to all other premises around the area where you can see there is a problem? Because what we put down in the conditions relate to, like, we would not be selling alcohol which is above 6%, which again the stronger beers are all above 6%. We've also reduced the hours, so again there will be other hours there, as you said, people drink in the afternoon. Would that not be difficult for people to buy 4 cans of lagers or when we have no miniatures sold at the premises? Would that not help?
I totally understand. I totally understand what you're saying, and I appreciate the offers that you've made. And in many areas, outside of Mitcham Town Centre, if we had a new premises come, I would usually push for a cap or an ABV cap on beers and ciders, at least 5.5% ABV.
So if you think,
6%.
sorry, can I interrupt that? Sorry, if you think that 5.5% could resolve the problem, we're happy to do that. We're happy in your to even go down to 5.5%. Carry on. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm talking about areas that are outside of Mitcham Town Centre, where we've had shops applications before in other areas where we haven't got such a problem, such a strong issue. I have suggested 5.5%, sometimes 6% ABV cap, to go some way to deal with any issues. But I'm talking about areas that are not within a cumulative impact policy. These are just general areas where it's good practice, and areas where we don't want to attract street drinkers to a particular area. What we have in Mitcham, and you're absolutely right. In my experience, street drinkers do tend to prefer high alcohol content beer and cider because it's better value for money. They get more. They get more of a hit from for their pound. The multi-packs of beer could possibly make a difference, but what we've got here is a concentration of street drinkers that is a social, cultural thing and also they're also dependent on alcohol, and they will buy 4 cans of beer. It's from a shop. If it's £1 a can, or if it's cheaper somewhere, they will buy 4 cans of beer all day long. The strength, they are not actually that fussy, and it has surprised me as well when I've seen groups of street drinkers sat around drinking from a bottle of Rosie's Infidel wine or something, where it's not what I would expect them to be drinking, but alcohol is alcohol, and in Mitcham Town Centre, we've got an issue. Putting a cap on the ABV and only supplying in multi-packs may go some way towards negating the impact, but not nearly far enough, I'm afraid. There will still be that impact, and it will be an unacceptable impact. I'm sorry.
Yeah. From my experience of 15 years in licensing, and I've been looking at this cumulative impact zones at times. I agree with the legal department just now saying, but here we are this application in the premises of 34, 35 years already in business. All it's doing is to promote or to stay alive, is to make sure that alcohol is sold to people who are better behaved and better thing. Automatically, this premises will completely push off the street drinkers, because A, they will not be able to buy beer which is strong in alcohol. B, they will not be able to buy single cans. C, they will not be able to buy any miniatures from the premises. So a lot of the premises have gone a lot way down to make sure things don't happen. There's something else that we've noticed that I don't know whether there is a retail consortium there or retail scheme with all the retailers. I don't know if there was one. My client is very much willing to join that and help the council and the town in controlling the drinking zone.
Unfortunately, yeah, we have tried a responsible retailers scheme or retailers agreement before in the past, and it was relatively straightforward, relatively easy to get most of the Mitcham retailers to sign up to the agreement. and it was very, very difficult to actually enforce it. Well, it was impossible to enforce, and I think the agreement lasted for a few months. Because, and again, it's all to do with the numbers of premises that you've got in such close proximity. When you've got one off license literally 2 doors next to another, and this always amazes me as well when one shop will open up next door to another shop selling exactly the same thing, buying for exactly the same market. There's that competition, and the responsible retail agreements go straight out the window because they're not enforceable by law. And as soon as one shopkeeper suspects that the other shopkeeper is not complying with it, then because they're desperate to increase their profit margins, they throw it to the wind as well. So they haven't worked. I'm loath to try it again. A responsible retail agreement, it hasn't worked. The conditions that I would put in a responsible retail agreement, I would want on a premises license, to be honest with you. But I just can't accept that if you go into Mitcham Town Centre and look around and you see yet another off license, I can't see how that will have no impact. Anyone looking at that will see more alcohol being sold. And I'm not getting that, I'm sorry.
I feel this is a premises which is promoting or willing to promote or undermine this cumulative impact zone by promoting the licensing objectives so robustly that I'm worried that why the other premises in the area are allowed to work out of what this premises is going to work. Because if the other premises are selling above 6% or not selling cocaine, though I don't know why the council haven't brought them forward in preventing them from doing that when you have such a problem. But I think this premises is there for 34 years, is increasing its sales side of it for responsible clients. And it has got robust licensing objectives promoted. And that's what I feel that it should be fully supported. That's what my view is.
Is this another
It
question?
also got mobile accessories that it sells. So it does have mobile accessories that's serving the general public at the moment.
Okay, is that another question, or is that a more of a statement?
No, thank you very much, Chair. We don't have another question.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have questions as well to Russ?
A quick one, Chair, very quick one indeed. The idea here is that a shop which has been in business for 34 years, selling effectively stationary items and news, is also going to be selling something which is completely different, really, alcohol. Is that a usual thing to happen, Russ, or is this an unusual thing? For me, the idea of selling envelopes and buying a pack of envelopes and a bottle of wine at the same time seems a bit strange. Is this, in your experience, an unusual thing?
In relation to Merton and going back the last 4 years, I can't think of any other premises that has applied under these circumstances, except for, funny enough, WH Smith's 256 London Road about 2 or 3 years ago. They were floating the idea when they were an actual WH Smith's, and I remember thinking then, I couldn't think of any other WH Smiths in the country. That I'm sure there are, but couldn't think of another WH Smith selling alcohol. It seemed to me at the time then to be strange. WH Smith is a shop that my local one I go home to with my 8-year-old daughter frequently to buy magazines and fluffy pencil cases. So, yeah, as I can't tell how much that premises has changed since it's moved on from being W.H. Smith's, but it's still a shop that sells stationery, news items, and obviously fixing mobile phones.
Thank you.
I have no experience of those sorts of premises becoming alcohol retailers. In addition to that,
Thank
no,
you.
Councillor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pauline, do you have a question?
No questions that haven't been asked before.
No. And I think myself, I've been satisfied by what I've heard from the police statement and questions. So I think we can probably now move on to ask the licensing officer whether she has any questions or clarification that she would like.
I don't think it's not from either the police or the applicant. No, I would just suggest that obviously there's information in the application. Should you grant, there's obviously conditions that you can put on. You've got to take each on its merits. There are a lot of different premises that have different authorizations. A lot of places that do or don't sell alcohol that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And you obviously have to look at the operator, the area it's in, and the things that they put in place, and see whether it would coexist with the policy, which of course is your policy. But apart from that, I don't have any other questions unless you've got any questions for me.
Thank you. I mean, I don't at this moment, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
And councillors, do you have any questions of her? No. So turning now to Guy and the offering his legal advice on the application. And any comments or clarifications?
No, nothing further. I think we've addressed cumulative impact, and obviously it's a matter for you to consider the application, what's been said, to form your view when you do deliberations.
Thank you. Thank you. So do we have any further closing statements from the Metropolitan Police, from Russ?
No, thank you, Chair. Nothing further.
And from the applicant, would you like to make any closing statement?
Chairman, I'd like to make a further. I have heard from what the police have said, and you heard from us how robustly the 4 licensing objectives are going to be promoted. I would like to make, before you make your decision, I'd like to make a small note from what I've been seeing all these years. The reason the W.H. Smiths have started releasing their shops and that is because they did not have license to sell alcohol, and news agents nowadays do not survive if alcohol is not, even if the alcohol is 5% or 10% of the trade, the footfall increases once you have an alcohol. And when I say footfall increases, it does not mean that when I say footfall increases that there are street drinkers coming in or that. There are street drinkers, there is an existence of street drinkers in the country anyway. But what I'm trying to say is that people come to buy newspapers in the morning, or people come to buy newspapers in the afternoon. This is a newspaper shop, plus it's a mobile accessory shop. So the way forward for W.H. Smith was to say, well, we're not going to survive anymore, and the shops are now being sold to like persons like my client, who feel that if the alcohol increased, again, my client is fully robust in promoting 4 licensing companies robustly, trying to undermine and to make sure the cumulative impact zone is looked into. So, Chairman, I feel that consideration should be given to my client at this instance, to allow the business to carry on, and allow the business to carry on in a proper manner that is required. We've agreed to all the conditions. We are agreeing to even putting down the ABV content from 6 to even 5% if you're interested. And when you're applying, and if you want to look at it, we are below the hours, trading hours of the Morrisons and everybody around the area, even the opening times and closing times. So I think there is a lot of positive way for this business to go forward. So Chairman, I feel that when you're making your decision to take all those in consideration, there is a conditions that I don't know whether you've got that or not in your bundle that we've sent to the police, that you would like to have a look at it before you make your decision on this application. Chairman,
Thank
that support to this instance for the client will be very much appreciated in getting this business go forward.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And we certainly will be deliberating shortly, and we'll take into account all that you have stated, and indeed the changes to the conditions that you wish to make. I think now we've heard and kind of had the questioning. We can now announce that the subcommittee are about to retire. We'll be having a closed session, but I will be inviting in the legal advisor and clerk to join us and to provide any further advice. Once I've closed the hearing, our clerk will be disconnecting you from the meeting room. But we can inform all the parties that you will receive a written notice of our decision within 5 working days. So I will now therefore close this hearing as it stands. We will be going in to deliberate, and I thank you all for your attendance and for all that we've taken part in today. It's certainly breaking ground for the council in having a virtual licensing hearing. So I thank everybody for participating, and as I say, we will now go and deliberate and look at all the evidence before us. Thank you very much.